Welcome to the Tired Dad Comics Club. I'm Tired,
I'm dad.
and we are the Tired Dads Comic Club, where you do not need to be a dad or be particularly tired, though, let's be honest, you are, in order to join us. We accept everyone and anyone. All we ask is that you love comics, because if not, this probably isn't really for you. And today, not actually today at the time that I'm saying these words, but the time that you're seeing me, it is Batman Day. Dun 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 dun. Ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. I'm gonna save you all from the rest of that. I don't know why this is a thing. Batman Day is a thing now, and what better opportunity to come together and discuss some of our favorite Batman comics. Maybe we got a theme about them. Maybe something where we're a little bit of a hint about what we're gonna go ahead and talk about. We won't know until we go ahead and do that. But I want to talk some Cape Crusader. Carl, how do you feel about Batman?
I love me some Batman.
It's true, you
I
do.
yeah, I
I
do.
can confirm.
That is true. I think it's a character that can be overexposed. Depending on who's writing, what's the stories, and but there are some amazing stories across all types of I don't want to say genres, but kind of. I mean, he's a pretty malleable character. You can kind of insert him into a lot of different situations, and I think he's a fun one to talk about. So I'm excited to do so.
I mean, there's not much more you can say about Batman. He is, I think, one of the enduring and most iconic characters coming out of the 20th century. I think you'd be very hard pressed to find many people that don't know Batman. And one of the things that I think is really useful about the Batman character is it's almost shorthand to sort of get into the action. Like you pick up a Batman comic, you know what's going to happen. You know, dead parents, detective story, mystery, other things like that. It's a way that you can kind of take it and sort of shortcut some things in a way that I think is really useful. And the on-running series that he has is literally Detective Comics. Going in and sort of picking it up and getting that. But then you can also have the superhero side, and he's a very versatile character, like you said, at any given time because he is so popular. There's probably six Batman books on stands, some good, some not so good. But we are here to talk about some of the good. Probably. I don't know your life. Maybe you chose some of the, yeah, maybe you
The
chose
worst. I don't
Frank
know.
Miller's goddamn Batman. I'd love to hear that. I'm actually, well, I wish I had chosen that because that book is rad. It's insane, but it is rad and
It's
bad, but
crazy.
rad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Carl, start us off. Talk to me about a book that you love and has Batman.
I will start off with probably I'm trying to think if this is a true statement or not, and I'm fairly certain it's a true statement. It's the first Batman story that I ever read. I was aware of the character through Super Friends, the Adam West show, all that stuff. He was a character that was always there growing up. But I'll set the stage. The year is 1989. There
Okay.
was certain thing that happened in the world of Batman that there was a lot of Batman stuff out there, and one of was Batman the movie adaptation. Now, the story about this book is I remember, reading this in a bookstore at a mall. Remember those? While my parents
Bookstores or
were
malls? Because either way, the answer
both,
is
yeah,
I don't know.
bookstore in a mall. This I found this book at the bookstore. I read most of it while standing waiting for my parents were like shopping, and we were just my brothers and I were just in the bookstore looking around, and I read most of this comic. And the great thing about this is, I was obsessed. I was obsessed with the movie. The just the it was one of those, like, I don't want to say life changing because that's maybe overstating it, but it was huge. It was a big deal. I growing up, we watched like the Superman movies, but then to have this like really dark take on Batman, I had never at that point. I'd never read The Dark Knight Returns. I didn't know that like a darker version of Batman was a thing. I mean, like I said, my exposure was Super Friends, Adam West, not the darkest of Batmans. So to have this movie come out and it was this serious take on the characters, and I was like, this it blew my mind. So to have this comic written by Denny O'Neil or adapted by Denny O'Neil, and the art is Jerry Ordway. Now, the thing about it is it's such a when it comes to adaptations, a lot of times they don't put I don't want to slight anybody, but it's not always like a marquee name or super like popular artists that are on those adaptations. It can happen, but not all the time. Usually it's
Yeah,
kind of
you're banking on
it's
like the title to sell it. It's like you
right.
don't
Like it's
need your top tier talent on that. It's like the old thing with licensed video games back in the day. It's like it doesn't
right.
need to
Like
be good. It just has the name on
I
it.
need to slap the name on there and sell it. But it's a really great adaptation. The likenesses are wonderful. Like you get like Michael Keaton, like let me see if I can like there's a nice likeness of Michael Keaton, and there's Jack Nicholson's in here, and
Was I saying that right? That it's color on one page and it's black and white on the other?
yes, sir. So the thing about Jerry Ordway is he has kept a lot of his art. So he has all of the art from this book. And what they did when they printed this, the hardcover is the original art is on one side, and then the um it's like the Batmobile. So it's presented in a way,
Pretty sweet Batmobile.
yeah, the best. But yeah, the fact that as an original art connoisseur and appreciate seeing that, I love that they did this with this edition of the book, and it's not like a super long story. I remember having it, holding it, and it being like a prestige kind of format thing,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's the kind of thing that I would
it's all
imagine if
there,
you're doing
like
an adaptation, it doesn't make sense for that
yeah,
to
for
come out
the
in multiple issues
yeah,
because you're not
which
trying to do like a cliffhanger for a movie that like everyone presumably has seen.
they still do these days. They do that. I mean, I remember like the Star Wars movies. It was like, oh, it's gonna be a 4 issue thing. I'm like, can you just like print it in one? But yeah, it's just it's a book that it has such deep personal meaning to me because of it takes me back to a certain time. The idea of the Bat mania that was going on, it was crazy. And I every time I see any art from this comic, I just puts me right back there, and I love it. So it's not one that I think gets discussed in the
I've
greatest Batman stories of all time,
never heard
but
of it.
it's
Well,
like
I've heard of the movie, but not that adaptation. And again, like that's a super strong, creative team. Denny O'Neil, my question right there, like Denny's my guy. Huge architect with DC, like the fact that they have him on, adaptation of that, as to your point about something that could have just been a throwaway because, people aren't buying that for the creative talent that's on the comic. They're buying it because it's an adaptation of the movie. It just also happens to apparently be pretty good.
it's to this date it's my favorite movie adaptation of a comic. Not that they're stiff competition, but it's wonderful.
Now, that copy that you have right there, is that one that you bought back in the day and you still have? Because you
No,
mentioned reading it in that Walden Books or whatever it
so
is, or
so
is that a
here's
reprint that came out after the fact?
this came out just like maybe I think I want to say it was 2019. Yeah, 2019, and which would have been the 30th anniversary.
Is that oversized, by the way? It looks
It's
larger than a standard hardcover. Like, is it the same size as an omnibus?
it is the same size as the
Okay,
omnibus.
yeah. So that's an oversized hardcover then.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but yeah, I love that one.
Now you talk
Oh,
about
oh,
your.
wait, I didn't tell. Sorry, I didn't say. So I never owned it because I read it in the bookstore and then put it back and left. So
That is
just
that I had a similar experience with the almost exactly like that with the trade paperback for Crisis on Infinite Earths. I have since purchased, I own it. I have actually some of the original issues. But yeah, it was that same thing. It was like I was at the mall. I was there because we didn't have malls where I grew up, so it wasn't until I was an undergrad that I had like access to it. But yeah, it was that same thing. It was like I had an afternoon to kill, and I was like at the end, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna use this bookstore like it's a library, and like and just like I'm gonna stand in the aisles and just read Crisis on Infinite Earths.
that is a meaty book and a lot of
Yeah,
words to
yeah. Marv
that's
Wolfman, and I mean Perez, drew the
mm,
heck out of that. So there's a lot to absorb there. Yeah, I
yeah,
I honestly I don't remember if I read all of that in one go.
yeah.
I might have done two things there, but I mean there is something so beautiful about those memories of doing that, and again it's for those that didn't have a chance to do that, go to your local library. You can have exactly that same kind of thing, except you won't have, like people like looking at you being like, could you put that back, please? Um, I do have to ask. So you talk about that being your favorite adaptation. Did you ever play Batman on the NES? Because that's a pretty sweet game.
Yes. I never owned it, but I rented it, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoy that game.
I will say, for me, it doesn't stack up as well as Batman Returns. Of course, by that I mean the video game,
Yeah,
not having there.
yeah.
But yeah, very cool. Like you love when there's a cool adaptation of something that doesn't need to be that way. Uh, it's not Batman, but Carl, are you familiar with the Wagner opera Der Ring der Nibelheim?
Let me think. I'm trying to think. No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Are you familiar with the comic adaptation that was done of Der Ring der Nibelheim?
Well, of course.
Because I have it right here, and it was done by Roy Thomas and Gil Kane.
Whoa.
I'm saying,
What?
um, yeah, you wouldn't expect. I mean, like, there's Siegfried, going at it. I mean, just like when I expect my classic operas being adapted, I
That's
don't
not
expect that exists at all, but I definitely don't expect such high level talent to be on it. But it's cool when they bring it and comes through. So that's awesome,
super
man.
cool. Super cool.
And and again, the printing that they did there, where it's the two pages next to each other, I think that's really neat.
Yeah, I talked to Jerry at a Baltimore Comic Con a couple years ago, and and at the time, so this came out and then it like sold out instantly, and then they had to do like another run of them
Hmm.
because it was just in such high demand because it's been known like as a there's a lot I think a lot of people that have that memory of reading that comic, but yeah, he was like, really excited to be able to add that art in there because he still had it, and I was like, you still have it. That sounds like that's gonna art that's gonna stay in the family for many many years, and
Yeah.
rightfully so because it's beautiful stuff.
I'm sure you don't remember because it was so long ago, but in the original version that you were reading, do you recall if it was printed that same way when you were reading it in that mall where it was no,
No,
no, just
it
the color
was
pages,
yeah
presumably?
yeah it was just it was a lot. I mean, this is yeah 64 page.
Was it like a
Yeah,
perfect bound edition where it was like almost like a really skinny trade
yeah,
paperback?
yeah,
Okay,
that's what
yeah.
it was.
Well, uh, next up, we're going to be talking about my stuff. And again, got the turtle shirt. We're talking Batman. And, you know, Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a pretty sweet book. Too bad we're not talking about it. You know why we're not talking about it?
Why not?
Because Batman shows up in that book. And that means that's not a book that we are going to discuss. Today, I am going to be covering my favorite Batman books without Batman. That's right. If you ask me what is my favorite Garfield comic strip, I'd tell you Garfield without Garfield. And the same way, my favorite Batman stories are the ones where Batman does not even
Nowhere
show
seen.
up. Why is Batman there? He isn't. We don't even need to worry about it. So we're going to start with probably the one that I think most people would guess, kind of coming from here. And we're going to get a little bit more obscure as we go. And we're going to start. I'm going to cheat a little bit because we're going to
Please.
go with Gotham Central,
Yeah,
which is not technically a Batman book, but that's a bat signal on the front right there.
it
Like this
counts.
is very much sold as a Batman book. But for those that aren't familiar, this is a story that basically tells the tales of yeah, Gotham Central PD. And it's really basically how does a regular police force operate in a city that is overrun with supercrime and has to deal with the sort of unofficial policy that they have with Batman there. And it's this really, really neat sort of story about if you've ever watched Law and Order or NYPD Blues or anything like that, it is at its heart a police procedural. So it's about both the lives of the police officers as they're coming together, the cases that they're going ahead and doing, and also just sort of the looming presence of Batman and, the horrifying nature of what's there. In fact, in the very first issue, we sort of because we as readers we take most of Batman's side with it. So someone like Mr. Freeze is like, oh, he's a goofy villain. If you watch Batman the animated series, he's a tragic figure. But you're used to him going and getting a big freeze ray and freezing the town of of city of Gotham, and then Batman has to get a big magnifying glass and melt it all, and everything's back to normal. This is a very grounded book. So in the very first issue, that's what we're expecting Mr. Freeze to be. What we see is Mr. Freeze, freezes a police officer, and as he and his goons run away, they run into this completely frozen person and break off their arm, and then end up shattering the person, and we see this death that is there, this straight death of a very routine super criminal, just sort of snatch and grab, and we see sort of them dealing with the death of one of their sort of fallen officers, and also just the general atmosphere that they have, the catch and release policy of Arkham, sort of, all this work that they're doing to try and get these people that in a city that's doesn't know how to handle them, that doesn't really have the infrastructure and kind of turning through there. And so you get that structure. And on top of that, really interesting structure, right? We were talking about something on its own, like maybe like you could just sell it on that.
Mm.
That is not enough. The star-studded cast that is here is just mind-blowing. Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka. They write the series together for a while. Ed eventually goes off and gets his Marvel exclusive deal, so it ends up being just Greg Rucka that's on the book. But the way that they split it is Ed Brubaker writes the day shift police officers,
Oh,
Greg Rucka writes the night shift police officers, and so you get basically the two of them writing their own separate stories, investigating their own separate cases, but then coming back, working together, going back through there. All the while, we have the incredible, moody artwork of Michael Lark, who will then go on and work with Ed Brubaker for his Daredevil run that he does, and then work with Greg Rucka for his Lazarus run that he ends up doing. So, I mean, this is a guy. He also worked with Ed Brubaker at not Scene of the Crime. Scene of the Crime? Scene of the Crime. I think it's Scene of the Crime. Yeah. It is a it's the best police procedural I've ever read. And it sort of takes a very realistic, grounded look at what these officers have to go through in the day to day.
I love the aspect. I didn't know that. I mean, it's one that I've not read yet. It's it's on my list. Um, I love the idea that it's night shift, day shift split. Because they don't most of the time they're not working together, but their work impacts the other, and I think that's brilliant. I think that's really cool. So
Well, and it's also a way too that it allows each of the writers to work together but still keep their autonomy. So it's not like they fully need to enmesh their voices.
yeah,
Sometimes when you see two people that are writing together, it can be a little messy and like you can kind of tell like, oh, this writer did this or this did that, or they didn't quite come together on an idea. Whereas here, they're really basically given room to play and do what they want. And then, kind of working together and just saying, okay, so we're going to have these things be in common. We're going to have this go here. We'll work on this, but otherwise, we'll do that. And a lot of these characters we end up seeing later on down the road. So, most of them were created for this. Some of them cropped up in a few things. Like, so for instance, Renee Montoya is one of the main detectives for the night shift. She was a minor character in Batman the Animated Series, and then came over to the comic world in, again, I'm pointing up so you can't see it, but in No Man's Land.
yeah.
This is where we get a really big focus on her. And then we get Maggie Sawyer. as one of the day shift cops, who ends up becoming many, many years later, ends up being the police commissioner of Gotham, as does Renee.
Yeah,
Renee also becomes some other things too. You get Crispus Attucks, who also becomes another character there. Just
that's
great
cool.
characters, really captivating crimes, and just, some of the best crime writers that are, in the medium today, working together with just such a moody and kind of perfect, combination there. Did you ask me if I have a page, Carl?
There's no way you could possibly own a page of that story, Bunk.
Oh, well, that's where you would be wrong.
Yeah.
So my favorite team in this is the night shift team,
Mhm.
and this was Renee and Crispus in action. So you see them going in, going to investigate, and then you see her getting a little
Yeah.
rough and kind of taking him down. And as a little aside, as just sort of like a little Easter egg for me that didn't impact it, you'll notice that in this page where
That's
Renee is slamming him down, um, Michael Lark didn't finish the pencils there. I believe he was inked at that point by Stefano Giordano, and so he just drew her without a face.
how that's crazy. Because that was going to be my next question. I was like, wait a minute, why did she
Uh,
have a
Anything involving Renee Montoya not being depicted with a face was still years away.
Mhm.
However, Greg Rucka was one of the writers on the Series 52 where certain events may have transpired, and he was the one who was basically working primarily the Question and Renee Montoya storyline
Mhm.
that happened going through there. So it was a way that he was able to continue writing for Renee Montoya even after Gotham Central ended with issue 40.
That's really
So
cool. That seems like the perfect page for you, Bunk.
it it was kind of a no-brainer when I saw that.
Yeah, yeah,
On the other side was a page from Ed Brubaker's Daredevil run. So it was Michael Lark doing that. So it was him getting to work with both of his guys. But yeah, that is anyone. I don't know anyone who's ever read Gotham Central that doesn't love it. And
yeah,
it's one of those easy comics that you can kind of recommend to anyone because it is a comic, obviously. There's some recognition that you get because it is Gotham Central. Batman does obviously play a part. Again, that cover, you can see the bat signal that's going right there. That was a book that I was actually pulling in singles back in the day.
yeah.
I had my old trade paperbacks, and then when the Omni came out, that was an instant upgrade, so I could just have everything all together.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was eager to read that series before, but now even more so, especially learning that day shift, night shift, creative team split. I think that's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, there are many people that put this as like their favorite DC series. And,
Yeah,
anytime you watch a video about, Batman or, DC comics for beginners, this series shows up because just kind of like I was saying, Batman, one of the things that I really like about the character is that he's almost shorthand that allows you to just sort of get into what you're looking for. It's a
yeah,
Batman story. Cool. I know what I'm in for. Dark, moody, mysterious, detective. All of these word clouds are kind of going around there, and I just like I get the benefit of having that set up. It's the same thing here. Because this is Gotham Central, we're going in. We don't It's a hard life out here in Gotham.
yeah,
The creeks are running wild, and we got a crazed man and a bat mask who's going on. It's just, nah, you're the police force in Gotham. Cool? You good? You good?
yeah.
We're good. Let's do it.
And it speaks to the some of my favorite, the Triangle era of Superman. A lot of the reasons why I like those stories is because Metropolis, because they had four separate titles and one coming out each week, there was a lot of room to explore the citizens of Metropolis, and you learn more about them, and it fleshed out that cast, and that's what makes it feels like a living city, and the fact that like you can flesh out some of the characters in the GCPD, that's brilliant, and I'm sold. I just need to,
Awesome.
yeah, I've been
I was
tasked
gonna
to
say, I think you already had to be because we already chose for you to read that, or I think the chat did, but yeah. Now,
it's happening. It's
yeah,
doubly happening. It's all, I think it's, I looked at it again. It's all on the DC Infinite
yep, yep.
digital. So I'll read
It's
that
super
that way.
accessible. The omnibus. I don't know if it's currently in print. It's MSRP $100, 99.99. You can find it, for less than that, assuming it's in print. You can read it online.
Yeah.
Easy recommend.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to
But
it.
what's the next thing you have for us?
Yeah. The fact that you chose that shirt, I was thinking about talking about these. I had them ready to go. They didn't make my list, but I was gonna.
You're missing number three
I
there, by the
I
way. You
am.
have
So here's the thing. I've not read the third one. I liked.
in this.
I know. I saw that edition. I was like, oh, maybe I should get that instead. And that'll be the way to read the third one. But I like the. I really like the pairing of the first two and how they kind of are. Um, one is Batman in New York, and the other one is the Turtles in Gotham, and they're similar stories,
Hmm.
but different. But I like the way they kind of pair together nicely. Just going through these again, like I think this one's my favorite of the two. I really like the second one, but yeah, I don't know. It's like that art is fantastic, and we
Freddie
should talk
Williams
about
up
it at
there
some point in
does
time.
does some really cool stuff.
Yeah,
He's going to be doing the art for the upcoming Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TMNT 3,
mm,
and he did the art previously for Power Rangers versus Godzilla.
yeah.
So
He's like
he's
he's like the go-to guy for the
if
crossover
if you got a
comics,
crossover
and
of an 80s franchise,
yeah,
talk
and it's
to Freddie Williams the third.
it's all really cool stuff. So yeah, eventually I'll get to that third one though. All right, so let's go to my second
All right. And I was going to say,
choice.
if we're not talking about
Yeah,
TMNT Batman, what are we talking about?
in choosing stories for what we were going to talk about, I thought of moments in time where I was really invested in a Batman story, and we talked about the the movie adaptation, and
Mhm.
another time where I was really invested is um, there was an event that happened in comics where it was a pretty monumental thing. It was the first time I remember seeing comics in the news, and it was the death in the family storyline where
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about a different death, and but
yeah,
yeah,
no,
the Jim Aparo, right? Death of
yeah,
the death
de
in the family. Yeah.
death in the family, yeah, where people were allowed to vote to whether the Joker had Jason Todd, and they voted to either let him live or to kill him, and they voted to
And
kill
in
him.
order to vote,
Yeah,
importantly,
it was
you had to dial a 1-900
one
number.
nine
You
hundred
had to
number,
pay to vote.
right? So
So people
people
felt strongly.
really wanted him out of the picture. So yeah, so he that was a big thing. And I remember like, oh, they're killing Robin. And I remember I wasn't quite aware that it was a different Robin than the original Robin at the time. I don't think I was. I'm trying to think like where my mind was. I wasn't really reading the comics, but yeah. So I was just like, oh, they're killing Robin. But anyway, so the fact that Jason Todd was gone, and he was gone for a long time. Um, then he this is a long way to get to where we're going to go, but in Batman Hush, there was I don't want to spoil it, but I'm going to spoil it because it's just a beautiful page. Uh, Jason Todd shows up in uh, the Hush storyline, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. Like Jason Todd's finally back. And this is actually my favorite moment in the entire Hush storyline. Yeah, I got my that I enjoy Hush, but this is what Jason Todd, like seeing him and that look I liked. I was like, oh, he's Hush, like oh my gosh, and it's a bit of swerve, and then it was not Jason Todd. And I remember reading the story thinking like, oh man, like I really wanted Jason Todd to be back. So I don't think that I was alone in that sentiment because along came a story. I think let's see, I think the following year, I think is when this came out. But it's Batman Under the Hood. I think
What was it?
so
So
I can.
because that was the Judd Winnick run.
Mhm.
Um,
I think
I it was pretty close. I want to say Hush was 2003. 2003, and I want to say
This is
that
2005.
Hush I was buying from my comic shop in Lebanon, New Hampshire. Um, uh, Under the Hood, I picked up from Earth Prime Comics when I was an
So
undergrad. So,
yeah, so it is. Yeah, that's. But I like how that's it's like where you bought it places the time of the book. Yeah, so September 2003 was when Hush was coming out, and this was 2005. And I think in between there,
pretty good
the
pull right there. I'm pretty impressed with myself.
that's yeah, that's good. In between there, I think the Infinite Crisis came out, and some you know
uh,
because this well we can get into that in a little bit, but the I think there's some of the
that
shenanigans that happened in
that's
Infinite Crisis.
before Infinite Crisis because once Infinite Crisis happens, there's more of a lead in because
Oh,
that's you get the year without Batman coming out of Infinite Crisis. You get he gets all wrapped up in the OMAC project. You get the Identity Crisis stuff.
so
Batman
here
gets messy leading.
this is why I was like messed up on the time. I didn't look at other stuff, but I remember because I pulled out some single issues. There's a like one thing about the story. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but the Matt
And
Wagner
that's a
covers
first printing right there
it
because the
is.
second one,
I ha I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. I have that somewhere.
I want to
But
say I so somewhere in Vermont, like all of the comics I grew up with exist. They're basically Schrodinger's comics, where they both do exist and have been thrown away by my parents somewhere in Vermont. And
yeah,
at
so
this moment, both opportunities exist. Until I actually go and have proof of that, that's the case.
that's the case. But yeah, I there was
Who's that time? Was that Winnick or
Matt Wagner.
Nice?
So it's a Wagner signature. I know of like I'm all over the place with what the story is, but and I'm spoiling the fact that it's Jason Todd under the Red Hood. But I mean, everyone at this point, a lot of people know that Red Hood is Jason Todd. Like that's become his identity in so many of the Bat books for the past 20 years. Um, but at the time, it
Wait,
was
pause. That was 20 years ago?
um 2005 was
Oh no, I don't like that at all.
yeah that math. I don't like that math.
Yeah, when you just said that, I was like, what are you talking about? No, because Red Hood was Joker. Like, that was his whole thing coming from there. What do you mean past 20 years? And I was like, oh no.
Oh boy.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
exactly. So, but yeah, so anyway, so there's been 20 years of stories where Jason Todd has been the Red Hood. But at the time, it was a big mystery. And uh I love this story because of the mystery aspect of it. I love the fact that, again, spoil it, to have him come back. I was excited to see Jason Todd come back. But also during the story, you get a nice there's a lot of action with it's Batman and Dick Grayson that are going on this kind of they're trying to Dick Grayson kind of comes in and helps Batman out, and there's a lot of reflection that Batman has, and it's all foreshadowing clearly that it's Jason Todd is Red Hood, but it's Batman reflecting on some past mistakes and what he's done. You're dealing with the underworld, the crime aspect of Gotham City, where Black Mask has, I guess, recently he took over as the crime boss of the city, and Red Hood comes in and challenges him, and
Yeah,
he's
that
a
was all coming
very
off of the War Games event.
yeah. So he comes in and is a very very violent take on how to handle the crime in Gotham City. But you're talking about the drug trade, and it's interesting. He comes in and he is very violent. He does some things to some of the lieutenants of all the crime families that is not good. Not um yeah, very violent. But at the same time, he's like, look, we're not. I'm gonna take over. I'm gonna take my cut. But we are not. If you sell to kids, then I'm taking you out. So he had like the moral code of drugs are fine, but kids are off limits. So that was your first glimpse of him being like, he's got there's some type of moral code going on here. But it's a story that I will go back and revisit. And a lot of the things about Red Hood, I feel like now I haven't read everything Jason Todd in the past 20 years, but
It's it's a
but
little hit or miss.
right, because a lot of it is similar in tone to what is in this story. There's a lot of, you know, and it happened in Hush 2 recently as well. It's the same type of Jason Todd butting heads with Batman over Batman's, you know, not eliminating the Joker, and eh, that
I will
how
say
many
on that note, one of the coolest moments of that storyline is before we get the reveal of who Red Hood is, when Red Hood does confront Joker, and like that's a cool moment.
yeah, and the way that it's shot, the angle of
Yep.
Red Hood doing what he's doing, the Joker, you're like, oh,
Mm.
okay. A lot of things about the characterization of Jason Todd that we've seen in those 20 years. It's all right here. And I think you can read this and you can get the idea of what Jason Todd is all about. And everything else is kind of redundant in the sense where it just I don't know that they've done a whole lot with him. He'll when he goes off and does his own thing, then it's a little more interesting. But when he's directly dealing with Batman, it's we've seen it before, and
Yeah,
it's done excellently here. And actually, I didn't even mention so it's Judd Winnick and Doug Mankey is the art. So yeah,
I
good
didn't.
stuff.
I'd forgotten that it was Doug Mensch that did that.
The
Yeah, because that was I I was pull that was a book I was pulling monthly at the time. Like I said, I like at that I placed that very specifically. I love that run.
Yeah.
I know people don't. I think people have warmed to it since then, but I remember going online to the GameFAQs comics and graphic novels message board back in the day when that was coming out, and people had very strong opinions both about the idea to bring back Red Hood and then also just the Juddock or the Winnick run in general wasn't viewed as the strongest run, and it that run is defined by that story.
Mhm.
But it was a book I always really enjoyed. I like Winnick as a writer. I really liked his Green Arrow that he did as well, coming off of the Kevin Smith stuff.
Mhm.
I also really like his My Friend Pedro graphic novel that he
Mhm.
did, sort of a memoir. But yeah, that was like I said, even. I came into that not really knowing who Jason Todd was, because I was not reading comics prior to that. So in Hush, I had a little introduction to who he was, and I didn't really know. But like I found out, oh, there was a Robin that was there and didn't. So I didn't have that emotional impact that it sounds like you did with him coming back. But it was a cool story,
Yeah, and
and I still think it holds up.
he was because he was one of those characters that just was taken out of the picture and was gone for many many years. And I want to say it's after the fact, after they did this, is when they did Winter Soldier. So because Bucky was like the other character that was not not in the picture for so
Um,
long. So was
yeah,
it?
that would have also been 2005. I don't
So
know. That might have been a few months before, but yeah, that was uh
that's interesting. Yeah,
Captain America 6 on the Ed Brubaker run.
where did you buy that one?
Um, oh, that was Earth Prime.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was that I basically just had Ed Brubaker on my pull list
yeah,
there.
anything. Yeah.
But yeah, in those nebulous comics that either exist or don't exist, I have first appearance of Winter Soldier. I have first Red Hood. For the key one that you have there, Jason Todd on like I have first Damien. Like I have
Yeah.
a
There's
lot,
some.
there was a lot of like very impactful characters that got introduced there that are like key issues, and they may exist or it may not. I mean, I was a reader, like I was bagging and boarding, but if those issues exist, I'm sure they aren't
You know,
in super
the
immaculate
greatest.
thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a cool time in comics.
One quick thought after that. So the reason my timeline was fuzzy on the like Infinite Crisis stuff,
Just
um,
because you didn't have a comic shop that you could say I bought this issue from this at this
exactly,
particular time.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that. There was a this is a kind of the piggyback off Under the Hood. It doesn't give you an origin of how Jason Todd returns. And to get that story, it's in
This is, by
the
the way, the book that comes out right after.
after.
Yeah, the face to face is what comes out of Infinite Crisis.
So there's just this one. This came out I think after Infinite Crisis as well, Batman Annual 25. This gives you the story of how Jason
Yeah,
Todd returned,
you get
and it's connected to
the
the
Lazarus Pit and going all
the
through, and just I
well,
remember reading that and I was like, honestly, like I would have preferred to not know. I have heard, and did you watch the animated special, Under the Hood or Under the Red Hood? I can't
you
remember which
know,
one's which.
I think I did. I don't I don't remember it though. I feel like it's one that I wanted to watch, and I feel like I did, but I don't
I've
know that I remember much
heard
of it.
that that handled the actual sort of
Return.
resurrection
Mhm.
better than the actual comic did because the consensus that I remember, it's been a long time since I've
Mhm.
read that annual, but
It's
what I
yeah. Go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, what I remember is it came out because it felt like they had to basically say what happened,
Mhm.
and it very much seemed like they had the idea, what are we going to do with Jason Todd if he comes back from the dead? And then after that, they were like, oh, also, we should probably say how he came
Howie.
back. And it was like very much secondary to the what, like what happens.
But I feel like they may have baked it into the idea of Infinite Crisis because it gives you the motivations of Superboy Prime to try to return things to how they should be,
Hmm.
and him punching the source wall, and things were then set right, and that's initially how Jason Todd comes back because it's one of the things that I guess Superboy Prime was like that should have never happened. So but then there is a Lazarus pit involved that to bring him back to
Yeah.
memories and stuff. But yeah, the Lazarus pit stuff. I always feels like a crutch that I don't love.
Yep.
I would actually would have been fine if it was just like Superboy Prime punches the source wall and then all of a sudden Jason Todd is back. Okay, that's comic booky. That's fine. Whatever. That's all we really would have needed if we needed anything. But yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, again, you knew that they were going to have to give an explanation. You can't have just a major like, hey, you were dead. You're
yeah.
not dead now.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Did like was up with that?
How?
You gotta, yeah, you gotta at some point go through there, but it was very clear that that
Yeah.
was secondary, which is fine.
But you could also never read that and just be like, oh, he's back,
Yep,
and then that's all you really need. But yeah, still a great read. So
yep, yep.
let's what else is what other Batman book are you digging that has no Batman in it?
Yeah. Okay, so last time I cheated. I did a book that didn't actually have Batman in the title, so my bad on me. Don't worry, don't worry. This
So
time I chose a book that the first word in it, look at that,
Batman, yeah,
it's
Batman. Yeah.
Batman.
Oh,
It's Batman. Batman
well,
must be in
good.
it.
Batman's back in the picture. Great.
Um, Now I'd like you to look at the trade dress. Like don't look at the actual image. What name do you see on there?
I see Huntress.
Yeah, Huntress gets like her own like logo and font and colors and everything like
Yeah,
that, and then Batman is just like
just like
white, like it's so much smaller.
yeah,
Yeah, this has Batman his name on it to sell it because it's way easier to sell a book that has Batman's name in it than it is Huntress. Um, but
oh
this book is rad.
yeah,
So this is Batman Huntress Cry for Blood. Again, you can forget that Batman's there because
but
you
he's
know,
on the cover.
again, if you just look at the composition of the cover,
Yeah,
like you see first and foremost Huntress going forward. You see Vic Sage question. You see him, like as the same size, but also framed in the light. And then you see Batman set back there in the
yeah.
dark. And granted, Batman's in the shadows a whole lot, but like this composition is important because uh Batman ain't in this book.
Yeah.
He is there to uh to uh to sell copies, and he's there to basically be like, "Hey, are you killing people?" And he's like, "All right, well, I'll go check on you." And then it becomes an awesome revenge crime story. So this is written by some Greg Rucka guy. I don't know if we've heard his name before.
Yeah, never heard of him. Nope.
This actually came out it's not long before, but this came out a decent amount before Gotham Central. So this is him getting to flex his question playing muscles, which will come a little bit later. Art in here is by Rick Burchett and Terry Beattie, with Tatiana Wood as the colorist, who also did the original Question series, which is kind of a cool
That's
like
cool. Yeah.
throwback. Clem Robbins as the letterer came out in 2000, so it was earlier than that coming out. Six-issue miniseries, and like I said, this is basically just a really cool crime revenge story. So, are you familiar with like I'm sure you recognize the Huntress. How familiar are you with Huntress?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've read anything that is strictly a Huntress story. I mean, I've read stories with her in it, but not anything like focusing solely on her.
Okay. So, Huntress is Helena Bertinelli. When she is not there, she is a member of the Bertinelli crime family. So, in the same way when you think of Gotham crimes, you think of the Falcones, you know, there's the different crime families that rule Gotham. Very sort of old school mafia, Mario Puzo, The Godfather, that kind of thing. The Bertinellis are one of those five families. And Helena, she is one of the members of them. She also is the vigilante huntress who, you know, works to stop all of that. And within this book, one of the Bertinellis, and I can't remember if it's her brother or someone very close to her, it might be her cousin who, she was raised with, is murdered. And the idea with this is that she is struck in this between her omerta, her cry for blood, the sort of familial revenge that she needs to take, and also her role as huntress, where she's supposed to be a protector of the city, of law and order, to kind of go through that. And Batman's just there to basically be like, "Hey man, did you kill a dude? Did you do a thing? No, I'm gonna be watching you." But really, what this is almost sort of a mirror of the original Question series, because as you might imagine from what I'm saying here, Huntress is real lost. Between her Omerta and her Huntress thing, she's a woman that's pulled between two worlds. She has these two conflicting thoughts. I need to help preserve the city. I need to get this revenge that someone has taken against my family. Who should come in but Vic Sage the Question, who in his series basically had to go through that, where he had to square his originally objectivist beliefs with this city that wouldn't let him live in the black and white. And it was through his sort of self-reflection, his work with Richard Dragon, exploring Eastern philosophies and meditation, that he came out the other side and was able to become a more fully formed character, capable of self-reflection and be the best version of himself. And basically, in this, Vic sees that Helena is in this state and worrying about her going down the wrong path, giving in to that sort of Bertinelli crime family side. He tries to be the mentor for her that Richard Dragon was for him. So he helps her investigate the murder and is trying to go about it the right way. And it ends up being this great crime story of the two of them, of these different sides that they're trying to go through. And ultimately, we have to find out how much of who we are is our inherent nature, is the what is given to us from our family, how much of it is what we rise above, the people that we want to be, and go through there. for any Justice League Unlimited fans that are out there, if you remember the episode Double Date, one of the best in the series, where the Question and the Huntress end up going on a case along with Green Arrow and Black Canary. A lot of the dynamic that you get between those two characters comes directly from this book right here. But again, great crime comic that Batman pops in to go, "Hey, hey, you being a are you being a good girl? Okay, I'll be watching you.
And
Now I'm gonna
disappears.
go cash this check." I
Nice.
mean, again, like
Yeah.
all you need to look is the trade dress to know
Yeah.
that Batman ain't in this book.
Yeah. I mean, I like that they, the composition tells you without telling you, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Um, but again, it is everything that you're looking for a Batman book with that crime, mystery, Gotham, all of those things that are all looking there. And most of my favorite, sort of Batman settings tend to be those early years where it's not Batman really going out against supervillains and being a superhero, but it's him trying to take on the Falcones, the Maronis, your year
yeah.
one kind of thing that you have going there. Long Halloween, where he's just starting to kind of get into that dark patterns, which I can't read yet. So,
You should read
um,
that.
so it very much has that feeling of sort
Yeah.
of early brutal, going on with that.
I like that time period when it's, it's mostly crime family with peppered in with some kind of, over the top supervillains. But yeah, the crime family stuff is what I really enjoy. So
Yeah,
cool.
and that's foremost at this right here, and also the Question's my favorite comic character,
Right.
and
So
this is really if you're doing this, if you're designing this as it actually is supposed to be, Batman's not on the cover. You're moving the Huntress trade dress up. You're taking this font that you have and turning that into Question and putting it below it, and that's
yeah,
that's enough for me.
yeah, nice. That
Yeah.
would, yeah, the hunters in question, which would be cool. That'd be cool. Like if they like ever rebranded it, that'd be cool if they did a reprint. They probably won't, but that's
They they actually did rebrand this a little bit when
oh
they so when the Birds of Prey movie came out back five
yeah
years or so ago.
yeah
It was like the Birds of Prey, the Emancipation of Harley Quinn, or the rest of it didn't go anywhere. But they did some reprinting of some of the different characters that were the main characters of that movie, and they reprinted this story as like Huntress case files or something like
oh
that, because you don't really get a whole lot of, like you said, Huntress stories on her own.
yeah
Usually she's with a team. She's often with the Birds of Prey, something like that. So this is first and foremost a Huntress story. Again, you look at the back cover. You have
yeah
her here framed in light, and you have Vic
question.
kind of looking out over her. You don't have Batman,
And no Batman.
and the story is better for it.
Nice. Well, excellent choice.
All right. What
All right,
I
let's
I'm
see.
racking my brains trying to think what this last Carl story could be. I'm really I'm thinking I'm trying to think, and gosh, I
Yeah.
what other Batman story could be super important to you as a reader?
Um, I had a hard time coming up with that myself because I'm trying to think like I don't know any other really like artists that I really like that have drawn Batman or any writers that I
Mhm.
enjoy that have written Batman. It's tough. So,
So
um,
you went with Batman the 10-Cent Adventure.
yes,
Love that
absolutely.
book.
So, in thinking, what I could pick, I was like, oh, there's year one. It's kind of like a classic option. There's The Dark Knight Returns, also, right up there. There's The Killing Joke, another one that is always like on those best of lists. Um, so I didn't pick any of those, and I picked a story that has elements of all of those, including elements of Batman No Man's Land. So when I talk about, the stories that hit certain points in my life, this is a story that like encompasses a lot of those moments. So it's surprise, surprise. It's from the New 52 run, Capullo and Snyder, but it's 0 year. The retelling of an origin of Batman within the New 52. Now, you'd think like, oh, why didn't you pick like Court of Owls? And Court of Owls is great. Court of Owls got me like hooked on comics again. And but what I really loved was when they explored Batman's origin, Bruce Wayne's origin. And uh, you know, the best thing I can say about the story, maybe not the best thing, but like the idea of the Snyder and Capullo run is clearly it they were given time to write draw the character, that it's truly a Batman that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's a you can give this run to somebody and say, hey, you want to read like a start to finish career of Batman? There you go. There's like 10 years worth of Batman stories that you can read and enjoy. But yeah, but Zero Year, it takes elements from a lot of the stories that it's a tall order. I mean, Batman has been around for so many years, different iterations of Batman, different stories of Batman, takes on the character. Year one is still probably like the single story. If I wanted to give somebody a Batman story, just go read that, and that to me is Batman, and it's great. But I like what Snyder was tasked with within the New 52 to take all of the things that have had come before and create something new out of it while also, honoring those stories. And I think you get a lot of that in Zero Year. And I don't know. In Zero Year, I've heard some people that didn't really like it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a good way to uh, show the growth of Bruce Wayne and what he was out of Gotham for a long time, came into it. He didn't want to accept who he was, his role, his family, his role in Wayne Enterprises. He was trying to stay away from that, but then he came back to the city, and sure enough, he became the Batman that we know. And it was a year-long story. Maybe could have been like 8 issues, but the third arc is
But then it wouldn't have been Zero
right.
Year.
Right, exactly. So, but that's the other thing. That's the marketing part of it, where it's like 12 issues, it's a year, and so that's why I feel like it had to be that because of the marketing. But yeah, but I still enjoy everything that we get in this book. You get a lot of nods to Batman, some of his first adventures. You get a new version of Doctor Death, which is like the notoriously the first supervillain that Batman encountered way back in whenever that was, many years ago. So I
Detective
like that.
27.
Was it in Detective 27? Like I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I really, but I know it's like the first supervillain that he encountered. So um, but there's like nods to Detective 27 in there. There's the cover, the pose happens within the story itself. There's not as much with Dark Knight Returns in this book, but there's some key images, that some poses. There's him perched on a telephone wire at one point in time. There's a swinging through the sky doing a lightning strike pose. So that's more of like visual stuff, but the story elements of Red Hood is in here. So I'm talking about Red Hood again, but this is like the Joker version of Red Hood, and so you get some nods to um,
Killing Joke.
Killing Joke. Thank you. My gosh, I'm like losing it. Um, so you get nods to that, where the origin of Joker is still up in the air. You question if the Red Hood one in the story is truly the Joker, but clearly it's heavily implied that is the Joker. But there's enough leeway there to kind of honor what happened in Killing Joke, where it was like multiple origins. But yeah, and then you get elements of No Man's Land. It encapsulated a lot of what I like about Batman, and it gave you a very fitting origin story that you could give to somebody and say, look, if you want to read something a little more meaty than year one, which is really quick, short read, this is a story you can read. And if you liked Court of Owls, this is the origin of that Batman. So yeah, I really I love it. And the art, the art in Court of Owls, I love, but the art in Zero Year is even better. It's Capullo having more time with the character. And I love the vibrant colors that you get. A lot of Court of Owls is, the kind of typical darker, moody Batman, but in Zero Year, there are some crazy colors, really bright color palettes I mean, I love it.
Speaking of the art, are there any pages like maybe with Jim Gordon that like speak to you particularly? You've been talking a lot of Bruce and kind of how he's going there, but he's not the only,
Correct.
major force who's in, Zero Year. Is there anyone else that you kind of identify there?
Yeah, that's the other thing about this story because you get the early partnership with Jim Gordon and Bruce Wayne. And that is a page that I own. It was the first published page that I'd ever bought, and I bought it because I really wanted a Jim Gordon and Bruce Wayne page. And that moment is really impactful because you think in that moment that it's Bruce coming up from working on the Batcave and he's creating the Batcave and he comes up out of the ground and right there's Jim Gordon and you're like, oh, he's busted. And yeah, I love that kind of moment. It's very very memorable. But yeah, that's the other key part about this story is it's them building that Jim Gordon and Bruce Wayne. It's Bruce Wayne relationship, and then it's Batman and Bruce or Batman and Jim Gordon relationship. So it's just them becoming the partnership that I love and I love reading about. So you can tell that Scott Snyder loved writing Jim Gordon, and you can tell that Capullo loved drawing Jim Gordon. So, yeah, Jim Gordon is as much of a star in this story as Batman. So it's just I love it. I love it so much.
So it's almost like the attraction for you with Zero Year is it's telling, this story from a time that we don't get, but at the same time, it's a greatest hits album. You're
Mm.
going through and you're like, oh, I recognize that from this story over here, and I had and that, and so it's you have your musical motifs that you're pulling all together and getting in there. So you're listening to the overture that you're recognizing from these songs, all while telling the story about what's going to lead into sort of everything that we're looking at and know will come.
Yeah, I mean, there's like they're playing the hits. You get this moment again where they revisit the I shall become a bat moment from like year one. Yeah, you get all of that wrapped up into a pretty cohesive 12 issue origin of Batman that you could, like I said, you could hand this to somebody and say this is the origin of Batman, and it's a I don't think it misses out. Like I don't think you could read this and say like, oh well but it doesn't highlight this aspect of Batman, and I think it does. I think it highlights all of the core components of who Bruce Wayne slash Batman is present in this book.
I mean, you'd be missing out on that David Mazzucchelli artwork from year one, which
I
is,
mean, the art
if
that's
it would be the book I would be putting in people's hand. But
yeah,
no, it's a point well taken that it's a easy way to sort of introduce the character to anyone, and also in the placement of the run, coming off of Death of the Family, where basically we see Bruce shattered, and we see everyone kind of going their different ways after the Joker sows his seeds of disbelief and torment and things like that. We then pull it back and we get to see sort of where things came from and how it got to there before we sort of take it forward and see what the effects from that are.
yeah. I mean, and to be fair, I wouldn't give 0 year to somebody coming in from Batman fresh. Like I would say if somebody wanted to read a complete story of Batman with the beginning, middle, and end, I would lean on the Snyder and Capullo run. I would still give somebody year one just to say, hey, what's a good Batman? What's an entry point for a Batman story? I would go year one. So yeah.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Well, that's going to take me to my last story here. And actually, I did this partly so that we could do it chronologically. So we had mid 2000s, we had early 2000s. It only makes sense that we're going to work our way back to the 90s and the era of Gotham Knights. Bow, wow, wow, bow, wow. So this is Batman Gotham Knights. It is a four-issue miniseries that is then followed by a second one, Gotham Knights 2. written by John Ostrander. He of Suicide Squad fame, uh, with art by Mary Mitchell and Bruce Patterson. And again, I am not cheating. It has Batman right there on the cover. You can even see him in the background. This only got on my radar because my buddy Brand XK, who knows my particular type of comic where I like a talky comic, I like a boring comic where, there's not a lot of things happening. He was actually the one that put me onto this. He was like, "By the way, have you ever checked this out?" And what this is basically a story of the regular people of Gotham and their lives sort of amidst everything that's going on. So, in the same way that Gotham Central is telling the story of a police crew amid, extraordinary circumstances, this tells sort of an interweaving story of people and how Gotham and everything that goes on there with the Batman and the villains that are all happening there. And it's a pretty great slice of life story about this character of the city of Gotham that we have seen time and time again, and how each of those facets can sort of get it at someone who's going there. So you have one of the characters is someone who used to run as like a low level hood for, I think, like Riddler or something like that. And Batman years ago had busted him. He went to jail. He gets out. He's got a wife. He's got a kid that he's missed out on these things, and because he's been out, he can't get a job. And it's the old crew is going there. He has a face off. Batman shows up at some point, and he's like, "Didn't I bust you before?" And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, like, it's changed." You get someone who basically like can't get access to decent health care. Used to have Thomas Wayne as his doctor, and as the city has just sort of fallen around him and just gotten worse and worse, he's nearing the end of his life and realizing that he's got a sickness that can't be cured, and worries about his wife that he'll be leaving behind in this city that just sort of eats at people. You have one of my favorite stories of a woman who works at a donut shop in the subway station who convinces herself that this one customer who comes in and gets the same order every single day is both in love with her and is secretly Batman, and that's why he can never actually confess his love to her. And it's these really great, just human stories that intersect, that lead to a crescendo where all of them sort of go there, and then at the end. We do see Batman kind of step out for a quick second, and again, he's like, "Hello, I'm Batman. I sell comic books." But it reminds me very much of one of my favorite comic series, which is Astro City, which I think I'm pointing at right there, which is a very similar premise there, where it's about the human stories amidst the superhuman. And that's very much what this is. And again,
Yeah.
because it's a Batman story, it's Gotham, you get that kind of shorthand where you get to just sort of jump into the story that says like, Gotham. I don't need to explain Gotham for you. You know what it is. Let's see how people live here in Gotham. And each one kind of highlights different things. Really, really fascinating thing there. And again, I got to give a big shout out to Brand because this was
Sure.
not on my radar at all. But like him knowing me and the kind of comics I like, he's like, you should check that out. It'll be up your alley.
This is a bunk book. Yeah.
I got one of my favorite segments pulled up. So this is the donut shop that we have our woman there, and she's convinced that this guy who's there, who always goes in, always orders two chocolate glazed, coffee, one cream, two sugars, is Batman. And in her head, as this is going on, she starts to think he's Batman, and he's like the most bored looking Batman that he's going there, but she's just
Like,
absolutely
it has to be.
convinced.
That's the
So I
only
mean, again,
plausible explanation.
like, and then you get this. of Batman taking a bag of donuts with that and his 21 cents of change, because in her mind, she is
That's
inventing that to be the case. She has
that's
a
cool.
whole imagined life that's going there, and it's not the kind of comic that you expect to see coming out.
Yeah.
And I do think that there are some aspects of this that were taken directly for Gotham Central.
Mhm.
So we do find that one of our main characters that we're sort of going through, he's a little aloof, he's kind of standoffish, and we find out that his life was irrevocably changed by one of the Joker's capers. So again, in the course of a Batman comic, we see Joker do something like that, and my gosh, Joker killed 5,000 people with this, and it's a number, and then we move
Turn the
on,
page.
and
Yeah.
Batman does the next thing, and it goes there. This shows the weight of even just one person being caught up with that, what that does to you, and what
That's
that all
cool.
goes in the same way that in Gotham Central, we start that off with Mr. Freeze and saying there are consequences when you have people that are so larger than life. Uh, you know, you're not going to just get a big refracting ray and melt a city. Someone's going to be frozen solid and then break into a million pieces, and that person will be gone.
Yeah. I like that. Like I said, that's when I there's some of the Superman stories I like. I like the things that it talks about the city, the citizens, the inhabitants of that city that make it a living, breathing character.
Yeah,
So that's this is great.
yeah. And once again, if we just look at the trade dress, we
Yeah.
see Gotham
Yeah.
Knights. Oh, also Batman's there.
Batman's in it. So,
Yeah, but I
so
mean,
was each issue like was it a full issue of that citizen story, or were there multiple
it
stories
it
within
it
each
jumps
issue?
around.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's every issue you get. So there's instead of your standard, like you have your A plot and your B plot if you're like plotting an
yeah, yeah, yeah.
episode of television and you have things going here. Each episode is like you have your A, B, C, D plots.
Okay,
And so you get this scene here where we dedicate 3 pages to the A plot, and then we jump to this next character and we do that. And then as we go, we might see, for instance, oh, our B plot character here, he's going to bump into our C plot character here, and C is going to be, he's already feeling particularly vulnerable, and that's going to touch him off, and we're going to see that all going there.
yeah,
And again, eventually, it all leads up to an event that brings everyone together, even if they don't know that they're together and they don't have any necessarily connection to each other. But we get to see all of them like that together. So
that's cool.
Batman's on the cover. It is
Yeah, it
absolutely
counts.
titled
It counts.
Batman Gotham Knights, and Batman's not in this
I
book.
mean, it's not uncommon for someone to refer to like a Batman family book, and it's like Batman that counts. That's in the Batman family of books. So
Yeah, I think as far as the actual Batman just definitely shows up in issue 1, and he definitely shows up in issue 4. And I don't think outside of in issue 3, that one I showed you where,
buying the donuts. Oh,
yeah, where
yeah,
where she imagines that he's
yeah,
not in there. And again, he's very quick snippets, and I really like the way that they do that, where these stories are being told around sort of the weight of the Batman.
yeah.
Just Batman is Gotham, and you just feel everything that goes there.
Well,
And this is
that's
a really good series for that.
that's like his presence is to many he's a myth. So the fact that it's you don't have to see Batman to feel his presence. So I think that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, those are my 3 Batman books without Batman.
Nicely done. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know a better way to celebrate Batman Day than that.
hey, there's enough stories with Batman in it, so let's highlight the ones that don't have Batman in it. So
I'm saying,
yeah, that's a wonderful way to approach it.
we we're this is going up again at on actual Batman Day. I guarantee you, if you are someone who has somehow found us and are subscribed and have this here and are seeing this on Batman Day, you are seeing plenty of other Batman videos on the same day. But I feel very confident that this will be the only video you check out that has a that is all about Batman stories without Batman. We got to bring you that little twist. We
Yeah, that's
can't be
great.
everyone else because if
I
we're
love it.
everyone else, what are we? We're not us.
Yeah, that's why I tried when I was thinking I had to do something from like the Snyder and Capullo run just because it's that important to me. I was like, but I can't do Court of Owls. I mean, everyone's going to talk about Court of Owls is on that list. So I was like, let me pivot to another story. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not that has Batman in it, so that's total a cop out. I'm doing stories with Batman in it, but yeah, I loved your approach. That was great.
I mean, you could have talked about Super Heavy.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
I was thinking
I
about that.
know, I
I was
know.
thinking about that because yeah, I love that story. Yeah, I mean,
But
I love my Jim Gordon. What can I say?
yeah, yeah, and everybody else loves exactly what Jim Gordon did in that particular story. Universal acclaim across the internet, 10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah, no, yeah, like hey, he should be Batman full time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
The
Yeah.
internet has said they universally agree that that is the case. Bruce Wayne gone, Jim
And
Gordon,
then
that's Batman.
what if Batman wasn't Batman, but Duke was Batman? Duke can be Batman.
Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody could be Batman.
Anyone can be Batman, and that is the lesson of this story. With enough perspiration and trust funds to your name, and a city where everything is meant to go wrong, you too can be Batman. I am curious for anyone who is watching here, what are the stories that you think of that define Batman outside of our norm? And also, I gotta know, does anybody else have a cool Batman story without Batman? Because if you do, you know I gotta hear about it. It turns out there are not that many Batman stories without Batman. It's shocking, I know, but it was a little hard to find those and kind of put this list together. But if you guys know about any others, I would love to hear about it below. Please sound off in the comments what else there is and what else you're reading and how you're celebrating the general day. Because at the time this is going up, we are living our lives not here in our basements and possibly doing some Batman stuff. And we hope you're living your best Batman life too. Carl, you want to take us out?
I'm Batman.
Carl's Batman. I'm Bunk B. You all have been amazing, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.